Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button on YouTube, Spotify, or even Amazon. That way you won't miss out on any of our future episodes. Today, we're going to be tackling AI art. It's a topic that's just exploding in popularity, but it's also raising some pretty big questions, right? About ethics, copyright, and what does this mean for the future of human artists?
Yeah, it's fascinating.
So we're going to be focusing on this new tool called Glaze that's been designed to help artists protect their work from being mimicked by AI. It's kind of like this artistic arms race going on.
Hmm.
With AI evolving and artists, fighting to maintain control over their art.
It's really interesting how this tension is playing out, especially with, artists really wanting to protect their unique styles. And this kind of begs the question of how should large language models or LLMs be trained if artists don't want their work to be part of that training data?
That's a really great point. Let's dive into exactly what problems Glaze is trying to solve. We've all seen those AI-generated images popping up all over the internet. But what's really concerning is that some AI models can actually analyze and copy an artist's style without their consent. This style mimicry, as they call it, can have some really real-world impacts on artists.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just a theoretical concern. Imagine spending years and years developing your style as an artist, only to have AI just copy it without any recognition or compensation. It's like your artistic identity is stolen.
Yeah, in fact, the sources we're looking at today really highlighted this. One quote that stuck with me was, "Seeing the artistic style they worked years to develop taken to create content without their consent or compensation is akin to identity theft."
Yeah. And beyond the financial hit, there's that, emotional toll to consider too. It can be so demoralizing for artists to see their creative vision, their hard work, being used without their permission. And this is actually having an impact on aspiring artists. Some art schools are reporting enrollment drops because students and their parents are, they're worried about the future of art as a career.
Makes you wonder how all of this is going to shape the art world, in the years to come. But let's get into the nitty-gritty of how Glaze actually works. It sounds almost like magic. Protecting artwork without changing how it looks to us.
It is. It's pretty ingenious. It makes these subtle changes to an artwork that are invisible to the human eye, but they disrupt the AI's ability to learn and copy the style.
So it's like a secret shield that only the AI can see. How does that work?
Well, think of it like camouflage. Just as certain patterns and colors can help animals blend into their surroundings, glaze creates a kind of visual noise that confuses the AI. And the really amazing part is that Glaze uses machine learning algorithms to understand how AI models see art and then creates those targeted changes.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this works. And the examples in our sources really illustrate this well. You see all these different art styles, charcoal sketches, vibrant illustrations, even photographs. And in each case, the glazed version looks exactly the same to us.
Exactly. And it's encouraging to see artists like Sarah Anderson, Scarlett Antiel, and Carla Ortiz. They're all already using Glaze to protect their work. It shows that artists are being proactive, right? They're taking steps to safeguard their creativity.
That's good to hear. But let's be realistic. Is Glaze a foolproof solution? I mean, AI is always evolving. There have to be limitations, right?
Right. You're right to be skeptical. Glaze is powerful, but it's not a permanent solution. And as our sources point out, it can be a bit more noticeable on artwork with flat colors and smooth backgrounds, though they've improved this in Glaze 2.0.
So there are still some wrinkles to iron out. What about AI models that have already been trained on broader art styles, like Impressionism, for example? Can Glaze protect against that?
Yeah, that's one of the limitations. Glaze is less effective against AI that's been trained on those broad styles. It's more about protecting against AI that wants to mimic an individual artist's style. And of course, there have been some attempts to break through Glaze's defenses.
Wait, really? People are trying to hack Glaze? What are these so-called attacks?
So there are two main ones mentioned in our sources. The first is called Impress, which tries to purify glazed images. Basically, it attempts to remove that visual noise that Glaze adds.
So it's like reverse engineering the camouflage. What's the other attack?
The other one's called the noisy upscaler attack. It takes advantage of vulnerabilities in the earlier versions of Glaze by adding noise during the upscaling process.
Wow, it sounds like a constant battle between the developers and those trying to get around Glaze.
Hmm.
Must be tough for the Glaze team to keep ahead of all that.
Yeah, it definitely highlights how this is an ongoing challenge. AI technology is evolving all the time, so the tools we use to protect artists have to evolve too. But what's remarkable is the Glaze team's dedication to staying ahead of the curve. They're constantly working to improve the software and counteract these attacks.
I'm really curious about the people behind Glaze. What's driving them? Are they in it for the money or something else?
Well, one of the most admirable things about the Glaze team is that they aren't motivated by profit. Glaze is completely free to use and it runs offline, which is great for privacy-conscious artists. Their goal seems to be all about giving artists control back in this crazy, fast-changing world.
That's fantastic. And that brings us to WebGlaze, the web-based version of the tool. Seems like that's a big deal for making it accessible to everyone, right?
Oh, absolutely. WebGlaze opens up the tool for artists who might not have access to those really powerful computers or who work mainly on mobile devices. It really helps level the playing field and get this technology into the hands of more artists.
But there's a catch, right? It's not open to just anyone.
Right. WebGlaze is currently invite only. They're trying to make sure it's only being used by real human artists, not by people who are making AI art. It's their way of keeping the tool from being misused.
Okay, so how do you get an invite?
It's pretty simple. You can ask for one directly from the Glaze team on their Twitter or Instagram. They've been really open and transparent about the process, which is great.
That's awesome. Sounds like they're really dedicated to supporting the artistic community. Right. But if Glaze isn't a perfect fix, what are the long-term solutions for this whole AI art mimicry problem?
If we step back and look at the big picture, we need more comprehensive solutions. Tools like Glaze are super valuable, but they're only one part of the puzzle.
So what else needs to happen?
We need legal and regulatory frameworks to protect artists' rights in this age of AI. We need clear rules about copyright, ownership, and how AI can be used ethically in art creation. This isn't a simple issue. It needs careful consideration and collaboration. We need artists, technologists, policymakers, legal experts, all working together.
It sounds like we're really just at the beginning of this conversation. There's a lot to figure out as AI keeps advancing. But it is encouraging to see tools like Glaze pop up to help artists navigate this new world.
It's kind of interesting, when you think about the anxiety around AI art today, it's almost like how people reacted to the invention of photography back in the 1800s. Some artists back then were really scared that photography would completely replace painting.
That's a fascinating point. And, well, obviously that didn't happen. Photography evolved into its own art form. And painting is still going strong all these years later.
Exactly. New technologies don't always destroy old forms of art. Often they just make us rethink what art is, which can lead to all sorts of exciting new possibilities.
So maybe instead of seeing AI as a threat, we should think of it as a challenge, a chance to push the boundaries of art and explore new creative territories.
I think that's a really insightful way to look at it. AI art doesn't have to be the end of human creativity. Maybe could even lead to a kind of artistic renaissance, a period of amazing innovation and experimentation as artists figure out how to work with AI, how to incorporate it into their art.
We're already seeing some of that happening, right?
Right.
Artists using AI to brainstorm ideas or explore different styles, almost like a collaborative tool.
Absolutely. And the Glaze team themselves are a great example of that. They've worked really closely with well-known artists to make sure Glaze actually addresses the needs and concerns of artists.
That's really important. It shows that Glaze isn't just some tech solution being forced on artists. It's something built with artists, for artists, to help them thrive in this new world.
It really shows the power of collaboration and having open conversations, and it ties back to what we were talking about earlier about ethics in AI development. The Glaze team, by working directly with artists, they're really showing a commitment to doing things the right way.
And the fact that they offer both the desktop and web-based versions for free says a lot about their commitment to helping the art community. They're not trying to cash in on artists' fears, they're genuinely trying to help.
And their approach highlights a really important point. Tech solutions like Glaze are great, but they're not enough on their own. We need to address the bigger issues, like the legal and ethical stuff surrounding AI art.
You're right. Even if Glaze stops AI from copying artists perfectly, it doesn't answer the basic questions about who owns what, how AI can be used fairly, and how to prevent it from being misused.
Exactly. We need to talk about these things seriously. We need rules that protect artists' rights while still allowing for innovation in AI. And these conversations, they have to involve everyone, not just artists and tech people, but policymakers, lawyers, and the public too. It's a big issue that needs everyone to work together.
It feels like we're at this crossroads. AI art is making us reevaluate our relationship with technology and how it's affecting creativity. It's a challenge, but it's also a chance to shape the future of art, to define what creativity means in this digital age.
I totally agree. It's easy to focus on the scary parts of AI, but I think it's important to remember that we have a choice. We can decide how we want to use this technology and what kind of future we want to create for art and artists.
That's a powerful message. It reminds us that we're not just watching this technological revolution happen. We can help steer it, make sure it works for us, not against us.
And it's really inspiring to see how artists are reacting to all this. They're not just giving up, they're pushing back, experimenting, finding creative ways to protect their work and make their voices heard.
Tools like Glaze are a testament to that, to their resilience and creativity. But it's important to remember that not all artists feel the same way about AI. Some are excited about the possibilities, while others are really worried.
That's true. We need to be respectful of those different points of view and avoid getting too divided. This is a complicated issue that requires a lot of nuance and understanding. It's not about demonizing AI or saying it's the answer to everything. It's about having a thoughtful conversation about its impact on art and creativity.
And that conversation needs to include everyone, not just artists and tech people. We need to get the public involved, teach them about the good and bad sides of AI art, and empower them to help shape the future of this technology.
Yeah, definitely. We all have a stake in this. Art's a fundamental part of being human. It's how we express ourselves, communicate, connect with each other. And AI is changing the game in ways we're just starting to understand.
This deep dive has really made me think we've covered so much, from the technical side of Glaze to the philosophical questions about AI art and its impact on the art world.
Yeah, it's clear we're just scratching the surface here. There's still so much to learn and figure out.
But one thing's for sure, AI art is here to stay. The question is, how are we going to shape its future? How can we make sure it helps human creativity instead of hurting it?
That's the big question, isn't it? And it's one we all need to think about as we navigate this uncharted territory.
This conversation about art and AI is far from over. But for now, let's pause and reflect on what we've learned. We'll be back in a bit to dive into the final part of our deep dive into Glaze and this ongoing struggle for artistic control in the face of AI.
This whole AI art debate, it really makes you think, doesn't it? Like, what even is art?
It's a question that people have been asking forever. And now with AI, it feels even more complicated. If a machine can make something beautiful, technically amazing, even something that makes you feel something, can we really call that art?
Right. And if we do, does that mean human art is less important? These are tough questions. I don't think there are easy answers. In the end, it probably depends on how you define art and what you value in creativity.
Yeah. And for a lot of artists, it's not just about the definition of art. It's that feeling of having their style, their voice stolen. It goes beyond the money. It's about protecting who they are as artists and having control over how their work is used.
Absolutely. It brings up all these issues about who created what, who owns what, and whether it's right for AI to copy human artists. And this isn't just a visual art thing either. We're seeing the same concerns in music, writing, even movies.
That's right. AI is writing music, poems, even movie scripts now.
Yeah.
As AI gets better, we're going to see this more and more in every creative field.
It's like AI is making us rethink everything about creativity. Yeah. And it can feel scary, but it's also a huge opportunity.
An opportunity? How so?
Well, instead of being afraid of AI, what if we used it to explore what creativity really is? We could push the boundaries of art, maybe even invent new kinds of art that we can't even imagine right now.
That's an interesting way to look at it. It's like using AI to inspire us instead of replace us. It makes me think back to our listeners' prompt about artists wanting to protect their style while also dealing with this new world of AI.
Exactly. Glaze is a perfect example of artists taking action. It's not just about defense, it's about taking control and shaping the future of art in a way that respects human creativity.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive, what are your final thoughts on how to move forward? What are some solutions to the challenges of AI art?
Well, like we've been discussing, tools like Glaze are super important for protecting artists' work. But ultimately, we need a multi-pronged approach. We need laws, regulations, education, and most importantly, we need to keep talking about this. Artists, tech people, everyone.
I completely agree. It's about finding that balance, protecting artists while encouraging responsible innovation in AI. It's not going to be easy, but it's crucial for the future of art.
And maybe the most important thing is to stay open-minded. AI might shake things up, but it could also make our lives better in ways we can't even imagine.
That's a great note to end on. A huge thank you to all our listeners for joining us on this deep dive into AI art and the incredible ways artists are fighting back.
This has been a really thought-provoking conversation, and it's clear that this is just the start of a much bigger conversation about art, technology, and what it means to be creative.
And don't forget, if you enjoyed this deep dive, please give it a like and subscribe to the show. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into something new and fascinating. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep creating.